Oh, yeah.
which is huge for their budget.
Yes.
I mean, the reason they go get
That's
target out of them is because it makes they make more money in
Yeah,
one
moving,
game
it should be
than
done
they do
pretty
off their
quick,
gate
huh?
the whole year.
That's right.
Michigan State.
Okay, you see that with all of these smaller universities? I think.
All right, I'd like to go ahead and welcome everyone to our commissioners meeting.
They didn't even care if they won.
Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you being out with us at our little meeting room here. So calling the meeting to order at 11:03 a.m. And we'll go ahead and do our roll call here real quickly. Commissioner Adams.
I'm here.
Commissioner Stubbs.
Here.
Commissioner Harvey. I'm here. There's three commissioners present. We had a full quorum. So thank you, commissioners. Moving on to our invocation. Is anyone interested in commissioners or audience? Maybe need help with invocation.
I'll do it if you can.
Oh.
Lyman can do it.
Okay, yeah, Lyman. Well, thank you, Lyman.
Our dear kind Heavenly Father, we're grateful for the opportunity to gather in this commission meeting. We pray for the elected officials as they consider and review and determine what is best for the residents of this county, that they'll be guided and strengthened by Thee. We're grateful that we live in this country that allows us opportunities to vote and to have freedom of speech and to own property and the different things, and pray that we'll be able to support our national leaders and that we'll be able to elect officials that will also care for the residents of this country. And we're pray for the employees of the county that they'll be able to meet their job responsibilities and to help the county serve the residents. And we pray for Thy Spirit during this meeting, and this I humbly pray in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Lyman. Now, if you'll stand with me and we'll do our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, moving on to our conflict of interest disclosure. Commissioners, if you're able to look through our agenda, are there any items?
I have nothing.
I don't have any.
Okay, and I also looked through the agenda and I don't have any conflict of interest. So no conflict of interest for any commissioners today or any items on the agenda. Moving on to our public comment section. Go ahead and give the time to Mac.
Looks like we don't have anybody here in the audience that's signed up to give a public comment. There's nobody online, so that, commissioners, is your public comment period for today.
Very good. Moving on to our consent agenda. Go ahead and have Mac review our consent agenda.
Under your consent agenda items, item number 1, you have the approval of $11,432.78. In small purchases, $2,337.78 is for an articulator for the San Juan County Road Department. You have $5,000 for the media road trip and virtual agent training. And then $4,095 for the annual travel planner ad for San Juan County Visitor Services. Item number 2, approval of the check registers for August 17th to August 29th, 2024. Item number 3, approval of the purchase of 2 trucks for $89,814.50 for the road department. Then item number 4 is the approval of the appointment of Liz Adams, she must be relative there, to the Blanding Cemetery Maintenance District for a 4-year term. They requested another position to be filled that's been vacant for a while. Item number 5 is approval for August 20th, 2024 commission minutes. Commissioners, the consent agenda items for today.
Okay, commissioners, 5 items for consent agenda. How would you like to do this?
I make a motion that we approve.
Motion all 5?
Second,
Okay, motion by Commissioner Stubbs to approve all the items under our consent agenda, seconded by Commissioner Adams. Any other comments or questions, commissioners? Hearing none, let's go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It's 3 in favor, none opposed. Unanimous approval on our 5 consent agenda items. Moving on to our business and action items. Matt?
Okay, this first one here, item 6 is consideration and approval for the cooperative agreement between the Bureau of Indian Affairs, Navajo Legion, Shiprock, Western Navajo Agencies, and San Juan County to increase the contract $40,800 from $170,000 to $210,800. TJ, Superintendent of Roads, is here to give us a fine presentation.
Okay.
Okay, so I brought this before. They're finally getting everything signed on their end. What we did was we increased the original 5-year contract from 170 to 210 with the increase that we've seen in materials, equipment, labor. BIA has agreed to that, and so that's what you're seeing in your report, the notice of the award. It shows that amount in there going forward, and so to get paid, we need the signature on that. Any
so
questions?
does that extend the, it's just a one year increase or?
So we did a 5-year a few months back. You guys approved that. They're just finally getting their funding. This is something so they can actually pay us. So in this agreement, they'll pay us because they took so long to sign it, that the first year it's $155,000, which is what they already owe us. And then the next 210,800 is going forward. So they'll send us a check for $365,800 once this is signed, is what I'm being told, to get us closer to being current.
I have a question. Is that per year? Did you get paid?
The 210,800 will be per year.
Okay, I had lots of people send me email or calling about the road, so I just want to know what kind of service the county gives for this money.
So the roads that we're doing on this is a BIA. So there's BIA and this is just a BIA agreement.
Okay.
We don't do any paved roads,
Okay.
which is where most of your emails are coming from.
Okay.
The other ones that are coming from Navajo Mountain, we don't do those roads either. Most of the roads that we do, well, all of them are bus routes.
Okay. Just a bus route. Okay.
So
Thank you. Well, time for a motion. I'll make a motion that we accept this.
Motion by Commissioner Stubbs to approve,
I'll second it.
seconded by Commissioner Adams. Does this include my personal driveway time?
no.
Right.
You really don't want that.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's 3 in favor, unanimous approval. Okay. Good deal.
Awesome. So item 7 on here is consideration and approval of a modification of the Forest Service grant between the United States Department of Agriculture and San Juan County. So it's also TJ.
So we have different contracts with the Forest Service. This one here was a $45,000 grant that it's a year to year, but they've renewed it every year since I've been here. There's a few things that we'd like to, with all the flooding that we have, we'd like to not Band-Aid things and fix some more stuff. And so the Forest Service has agreed to raise their grant and double it this year. Now I'm hoping that we can get that every year, but it'll allow us to fix, add some culverts, do some more work up on the forest roads that we take care of. And so all this is a increased funding from the 45 to 90, except the extra 45,000 for this year. And then we hope going forward that we'll just continue it and get 90 instead of 45. So that's what this one is.
All right, Commissioners.
Yeah, make a motion, we approve.
Motion by Commissioner Adams,
And I'll second it.
second by Commissioner Stubbs. Any other comments or questions, Commissioners?
Just want to say thank you for what you do, and you know, in order to get more money, you have to have a good personality. So thank you for going and representing us well. Thank you for all you guys do, especially with all the storms and all the.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
I'm not sure he has a good personality. He's
Well,
a red.
one.
he's a
Isn't he one
redhead.
of your fifth graders? Was he a fifth? Was you one of his fifth graders? And you think
That's
you're
why I
the
went
one?
bald.
Anyway,
All right, let's take a vote then. All those in favor?
Aye.
It's 3 in favor. There's no one to oppose, so motion carries unanimously. Moving on to our next item.
Thanks,
number
Commissioners.
8.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 8 is consideration and approval of San Juan County Public Health COVID-19 rapid test memorandum of agreement between the Utah Department of Health and Human Services and San Juan County.
This is our latest TV star.
Wow.
I don't have TJ's personality, so bear with me.
You're on TV.
Yeah, and I do sign autographs after commission meeting. No, thanks for it's an honor to represent the county in the media, and especially for such an important cause with the cancer screening program. So appreciate all the support for that and all the work that led into that. So thanks for the introduction, Mac, for this memorandum of agreement. This is a continuation of similar agreements that allow us to provide COVID-19 testing. As you know, we're not in an emergency situation, but we've shifted now to COVID-19 has shifted in that we're still seeing it. But the immense burden on hospitals is not what it was. We're adapting now where it's a little bit more similar to the flu, for example, where some cases you're not going to know the difference between the common cold maybe and the flu and COVID-19. But if you do have risk factors, known or not, could have a more severe case. Still a concern, and as well as we're learning more about what we call now long COVID. Some people with lingering symptoms, brain fog, ongoing fatigue, breathing trouble, things like that. And we've had some trainings for our staff and our partners on long COVID. But that's just an overview as far as where we're at now as far as COVID-19 goes. And this allows us to continue to provide COVID-19 testing, be it our nurses providing those tests directly with people, or we have some at-home test kits that are fairly easy to use. And so that can be great when, say, you're planning to visit a family members who higher risk or something like that, and you want to just make sure, have that assurance. The other update is that this is allowing us to extend, well, this is part of what allows us to extend our testing out more into the community, combining it with mobile WIC. So on second Wednesdays, we're still here in Monticello. So mobile WIC, mobile COVID testing here behind the county building, second Wednesdays. And then news is that on third Wednesdays, we're in Bluff. They're coordinated with UNHS mobile clinics and set that up with Mayor Lepinen and other partners. So yeah, I just wanted to provide a few updates along the way. So you can see here, this is just an agreement overall that we will provide the testing, we'll comply with all the instructions, we'll provide reporting to the state as COVID-19 still is required mandatory reportable illness. And just maintain our other agreements, such as application fee, things like that. But nothing too unusual, I would say. But I'm open to any questions you might have.
Commissioners, any comments or
I
questions?
just have one question. You mentioned about the lingering longer,
Mhm.
the COVID. Is there anything just for the general population that, especially
Right,
the
right.
older population, like especially when you feel like you're not getting better and you wonder
Right.
what's right, and sometimes you thought maybe you had a cold, but it wasn't a cold; it was more of a
And it's not going away,
it's
right?
going away. So
Yes.
I wonder if there's any way within the county where can,
Yes.
learn this. If you're having these symptoms and you have got a cold and you feel like you can't think anymore,
Perfect.
or you're
Yeah,
tired,
we just went through a training, like I said, for our staff and for some clinical partners. A few of our next steps, we want to extend that training to the clinical staff directly at Utah Nova Health System, Blue Mountain Hospital, and San Juan Health. And then we'll be developing some educational materials so that we can spread the word. For example, there's actually an official diagnosis now for long COVID. So that's helpful versus before we were just not sure, right? We're still gathering evidence about it. Another is that it can actually be declared officially as a disability. And so that can be very important and helpful for someone who is dealing with these ongoing symptoms. It's they're not able to perform their work or their day-to-day activities like they used to. And so being able to declare that as a disability can be very helpful to access needed resources. So we're working on it. I don't have those materials yet, but it is new and we're working on that so that, like you
thank
said,
you.
everyone
you.
can know.
Yeah.
Good question.
All right. Well, I think we just need an approval, commissioners.
I'll just make a motion that we approve it.
Motion by Commissioner Stubbs to approve.
I'll second that motion.
Second by Commissioner Adams. Only question I wanted to ask, Grant,
Yes.
was this coming COVID season. I know they're working on vaccination, a new vaccination. Is the county, the public health, are they going to be getting the new vaccines in a couple of months when it's available?
So I will check on that and follow up with you to see what the status is, because we have, we have not been providing, because it's not in the emergency status anymore. We're shifting to more what we're doing currently with other vaccines, and that's where our main goal is to fill the gap. And thus far, with Utah Nova Health System as a sliding scale health center, and with San Juan Health as a rural health district, we haven't found that we can fill a gap there, that there isn't as much of a gap because they're covering everyone right now, as well as the cost effectiveness of us providing that. And that's something with the upcoming budget season I would like to review with you all if there is a need for us to channel some of our local public health funds into something like that, which would be things like an electronic medical record so that we can actually bill, things like that, process payments for vaccines. So at this point, I don't anticipate that we will be, but if there is a supply that we can access and then provide, that's where we could be doing that. So
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you much, Grant. Go ahead and take a vote then. All those in favor to approve the COVID rapid testing MOA? Aye.
Aye.
That's 3 in favor. No one opposes. Motion carries unanimously.
great. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Grant.
Have a good
Thank you,
day.
Grant. Moving on to item number 9.
Okay, this is consideration and approval of a memorandum of agreement with Monticello City for the prosecutor of Monticello City. This agreement we had when when Brittany was the prosecutor for Monticello City as well. Now that she is out and has a full-time job elsewhere, they wish to contract with Mitch. All this memorandum of agreement really represents is the fact that he would be using his office here in the county to perform those services for Monticello City, as well as the de novo, kind of the small increment costs, whether it's utilities or paper that he prints, things like that. That this agreement allows him to do that, but it has to go through the commission for your approval to allow for that. This will help Monticello City out really.
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement.
Motion by Commissioner Adams,
I'll second it.
second by Commissioner Stubbs. Any other comments or questions before we vote, commissioners? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor to approve?
Aye.
Aye. Vote is 3 in favor, no opposition. Motion carries unanimously for approval.
Okay, item number 10 is consideration and approval of the medical director agreement between San Juan County and Dr. Francesca R. Nichols to authorize, direct, and supervise the medical acts of emergency medical services in accordance with Utah Code. We are required, overseeing the ambulance, to have a medical director that's in charge of all the processes and procedures on a medical basis. We had received notification back in June that our former medical director was resigning that position, and so I had worked with San Juan Clinic to see if there were any other doctors that were available. This one here, this doctor comes highly recommended. She's got a background in military service, as well as she's an avid outdoorsman, and so when it comes to search and rescue, things like that, she loves being outdoors. And so our staff have worked with her in the past. She's come in with training on several training sessions that we've had as the ambulance for our EMTs. With that, there's kind of a change. I haven't been able to locate a contract before, so it doesn't look like we've ever really contracted for the service. This new contract here, nor can I find payments that we've provided in the past. So in here, it kind of gives an overview of what the expectations are for the medical director and what we're asking them to perform. It also includes compensation of $6,000 a year. Speaking to the state, like if you can get them for $6,000, that's awesome. A lot of other counties that oversee ambulance, $6,000 in a rural area is a pretty good rate. This can actually go up to higher, a lot higher. Along the Wasatch Front, medical directors get paid phenomenally well up north, but where it's a rural medical director, a little bit different for us. It does have some reimbursements for travel every year. They're required to attend the medical directors conference, where the state medical director kind of helps educate and train, especially after legislative bills change, as well as the procedures that she will now have to go through and update. And so she'll be coordinating with that, but we will reimburse her for that training and that travel to attend that conference so that she can become educated on what they do. There's also membership dues in here, the National Association of EMS Physicians, which we want her to belong to, the licensure that requires her to have as a medical director, and then we will cover the cost of insurance for the medical director through the medical director's insurance program. It's kind of separate. Spoke to USIP on this, just in general coverage, or as a contracted vendor of us, would she be covered under USIP? She would, but there's this malpractice insurance, which is kind of the hurdle. Well, this insurance for the medical directors kind of helps cover that malpractice. She's not going to be an acting physician on our staff. She's just going to be the medical director, which oversees the program and the policies that are written that EMS, if they arrive on scene and somebody's had a heart attack. Well, this procedure and policy is kind of what they use as a step-by-step to help IMT. She will be overseeing all of that. I also included in the contract a little bit more training. I'm hoping to get the medical director to be a little bit more hands-on. I don't speak this language in the medical field, and it's really the doctors that understand the procedures and processes, and especially when you look at being in a rural area compared to the Wasatch Front. When they pass laws up north, you know, you've got to get a patient or somebody that's riding on the ambulance there within 15 minutes to a hospital. Well, some places that we pick up our patients takes longer than 15 minutes, and so having that in mind and being able to focus on the rural aspect and the rural needs, sometimes the medicines and everything that we would give a patient are a little bit different than what up north would give, and so she would have that in mind as she goes through those policies and procedures and gives the guidance and then trains our EMTs. I have about 4 trainings a year where she will step in and kind of provide this ongoing updated information and education to our EMTs. She will see what's going on from the hospital's point of view as our EMTs drop off a patient at the hospital to the emergency room. If there's any conflicts or clashes, she'll be able to come in and train and establish that working relationship with the EMTs a little bit more. So I've kind of beefed up that component of the contract. But she has already met with the state's medical director. She met with him a couple weeks ago just to try to figure out, okay, what am I stepping into? What is my role going to be as a medical director? And so she is all on board, and this contract kind of finalizes everything. And then each year would go through and look at to see if there's any changes or things that she needs to continue to contract with her.
Okay, commissioners,
Okay.
any comments or questions?
I make a motion that we approve Dr. Nichols as the medical director for the county.
Motion by Commissioner Adams to approve,
I second the motion.
second by Commissioner Stubbs. What's the, is it an annual or how far are we going on this, man?
It would be an annual where we would continue to renew this. We'll be working with her as the new policies and procedures come out. So those are currently updated, and so we'll be touching bases with her quite a bit through this, and then just renew the contract as we need to.
Okay, very good. All right, let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor to approve?
Aye.
Aye.
It's 3 in favor, no oppose. A motion carries unanimously. Moving on to our next item, number 11.
Okay, then item 11 is consideration and approval of a notice of award and intent to contract for the San Juan County Public Safety Building remodel and expansion, construction management and general contractor services to CERC Incorporated. We had received 5 proposals in total for this process. The initial process is, so we had hired the architect. Now we essentially marry a contractor with the architect to continue with the design of the remodel of the public safety building. When we put this out, there's still some question of whether or not we add an additional building to that building over there. There's some substantial issues. Remodels are always hard when you're taking a 1970s building and trying to bring it up to code and get everything how we need it for the correction aspect of it, of what we do. So there's been, some thoughts of, well, let's try to house more of the administration and courts in a separate building and take over the entire old building for the county jail portion of it. As a reminder, we continue to house state inmates in here, and if we are able to get additional beds, that's additional revenue that can go towards paying for this bond that we have on the project. And so right now, this initial step is really about getting the contractor to help us with that design to make sure that if we can't afford an additional building on here, that we can stay within costs. stay within costs overall, because we do have a fixed limit budget on this project. All the money that we have is all we have. We've been 3 years trying to seek funding on this, and we were finally able to convince CIB to help fund this in a grant and a loan. And so it's a good project. The 5 companies that proposed are awesome companies throughout the state. Very well reputable, very well named. A lot of, as we went through and we sat as an evaluation committee and reviewed the proposals, some of the timelines, you know, it went out as far as 2028. Well, this is a project that we want to get started right away, and especially knowing that we have this bond that we'll have to start making payments. We want to make sure that we don't have to make payments after 2028 and try to get in and get out as fast as we can. The contractors will be looking at, you know, the possibility of keeping the inmates in place so that we can continue to receive the revenue for this project, but yet, you know, how can you phase a project that's going to completely redo the HVAC system and the electrical and the sewer and the plumbing in a building where inmates are currently housed, and we still have to keep the environment habitable for them. And so that's in this process, you bring the contractor in so they can answer those questions with the architect. You know, can we keep them housed while we do this remodel? Well, only the contractor will be able to answer that. And so out of the 5, the one that seemed to be the most qualified and had the most responsible proposal was CERC. CERC in their proposal had indicated that, you know, they're not a self-performing contractor, which means they won't be doing the concrete or the plumbing. They will hire all of this out. So there's still a lot of opportunities for our contractors, our local contractors, to participate in this process. The initial contract is really to bring them on board, work with the architect, and then their following contracts that will follow, they will have to go out to bid to get the subcontractors on board with them. We and the architect review kind of all of those bids from all of the subcontractors that will come in. All of that is kind of at a later date, but this is the first to bring a contractor in here to answer the tough questions before it goes to work. So there will be another contract that you will see shortly hereafter if you accept this notice of award, and we'll start negotiating the contract with CERC, and then notify all the other contractors of this selection.
Okay, commissioners, there you have a notice of award for CERC.
I'll make a motion that we award CERC this particular part of the contract.
Motion by Commissioner Adams,
And I second the motion.
second by Commissioner Stubbs. Any other comments or questions, commissioners?
I just have a comment about how many black pages we have.
And some of our
Kind of
blacked
look
out.
like a government request from a judge, mostly blackout. But yeah, it was a very good proposal.
It's kind of
Thank
neat
you.
that the contractor's gonna be using local contractors for some of the work, so
Yeah.
it's pretty awesome. Okay, well, let's go ahead and vote then. All those in favor to approve?
Aye.
Aye, that's 3 in favor. Unanimous approval. Now we are moving into our public hearing to entertain the next item. Do we
Okay,
need to
this-
motion?
This item is consideration and adoption of a resolution pursuant to section 17-36-26 UCA 1953 as amended, approving the additional budget appropriation request and or mid-year adjustments to identify new revenues, grant funding, and or monies unspent in the prior year fund balance. This one here, we will turn it over to Peter to go through, and then we'll ask you to make a motion to enter into the public hearing to take any public comments.
Peter Brown, Chief Deputy Clerk Auditor. We're proposing to make some adjustments to the 24 budget. I think just to kind of give people a background, this is just sort of a mid-year take at how our budget's performed. A lot of times when we make a budget, there's things like grants and other sorts of we don't know about, and then all of a sudden we know about them, and so we want to sort of include that and take a look at how we're going to improve in year end. So this is really, in my opinion, it's a way to help staff and elected officials be able to have a more realistic look at how to approach their year end. With that being said, we'll walk through this. We'll start with our operating budget. And I'm just going to give a high-level overview of sort of what we're looking at. With our operating budget, we propose to amend the general fund revenue up $940,000. Really, because we've had some improvements in our projections on property tax, as well as a bunch of new grants that have come in. These aren't just wishful thinking. These are grants that we've already got some awards on. As you'll see, largely they affect the administration side of the county. And so those will be reflected in our expenditures. There's a couple other things to note. We did have we have been getting a 9/11 reimbursement from the government to run a 9/11 service down here, but that contract has been merged with Carbon County. So we're no longer going to get that revenue, and so we've taken that out of our projection. And so that's our revenue there. If you go to the next page, on expenditures, we did a couple of things. We looked at our salaries really from a performance standpoint, where we were at mid-year, and sort of projected out where we thought we'd be at the end of the year with a little bit of a cushion. I want to say a couple of weeks, just to give us some ability to make sure we make those budgets. And so that's reflected in kind of an overall salaries adjustment there and change to be a little more precise than what we had at the beginning of the year. Below that, there are, and I've just sort of listed out what I would consider material changes to the budget. And you could look down and see those. I'm going to just give a high-level overview. We did some categorization adjustments. For example, we are splitting out overtime and compensation in our budget. We haven't done that before in the past, just to kind of give us some better visibility on the amounts of overtime that are taken from a dollar standpoint. So you'll see that reflected in there. We had to be a little more precise in our budget with respect to capital expenditures. So we've moved some of dollars into what I would call capital lines, because those get sort of taken into a different direction. We have to depreciate. We have to sometimes recognize lease and interest expenditures on our capital projects. And so those, it's just a little more precise than what we've had. We have some new grant expenditures as I talked about with the revenue. I know there's been some new grants that'll help the Cal Black Airport. Mac may want to jump in and maybe elaborate a little bit more on some of those funds that we've got and what that's going to cover. We had in our original budget, we had a large $900,000 grant for emergency services that we had twice in our budget. So we had it once in our capital expenditures and also in our operating fund. Well, that's like a double dip of almost $1 million. So we're like, well, let's just put it in one fund and not the other, because it's going to be a capital grant. And so we left it there and we took it out of operating, so it won't be there anymore. And then some departments, had some particular requests. We tried to honor those as much as possible in here. And overall, our expenditures in our operating fund increased to $19,739,000, reflective somewhat of our revenue increase as well. Any questions on operating before we move on? Okay, next page. Fund 21, we had some increases in state grants, some improvement based on performance for our work for federal agencies and our other departments, and some interest earnings that we project upwards. And then there was just a little bit on the expenditure side, not a lot of change, mostly related to just, again, those capitalized assets and leases. We wanted to make sure that was more precisely recognized in the capital outlay line and not some other like equipment purchase or other equipment rental line. Next one is our Fund 25. Very little change there, just a little adjustment on the revenue and expenditure side. We'll take care of that mostly at year end. Our next one's our Fund 26. We found some state grant money that wasn't previously budgeted for that we've included here, as well as projection of our EMS fees from what we had predicted the end of last year. And so that has moved our revenue projections up a bit. And then our expenditure side, that's been reflected on some sort of more realistic look at what we're paying in salaries for our EMS crew. So there's not a whole lot of change in the net position, just sort of an adjustment on the basis of what we predict year end's going to be. One other thing to note is we didn't have our depreciation costs recognized in the earlier budget, so we wanted to make sure that was included in this particular one. Fund 27 is a new one. This is our jail fiduciary fund budget. In the past, for our state inmates, when they had money for their particular personal needs, they were just put in the general fund. So with help with our state auditors, we've moved that into its own fund so it could be isolated and sort of protected from the rest of our funding mechanisms. And so this is a clearing fund, so revenue should equal expenditures at the end of the year so that we're showing that we're taking care of their needs. It's not being commingled with other county funds. Next one is our Fund 45. I've got a request in there. I see this in red that we didn't catch when we sent the budget out, but really what this is we're trying to capture the change in our general fund included a $600,000 transfer to our capital projects. And we noted that there in the general fund, but it didn't get captured on the revenue side of the capital fund. So we're requesting that amendment to be made on top of what you received, last week with the budget packet, and then also to kind of adjust the beginning fund balance. But overall, that improves our net position in capital expenditures. Our projections about $1.2 million, and you'll see that reflected as well. Next one's landfill. Landfill didn't have a lot of increased projections in revenue, other than we didn't capture the interest improvements. So I'm asking to do that as well. I've got that also in red. And that's useful because we had some changes in our landfill budget. Probably the biggest one was that we had budgeted depreciation as a negative in our budget, which should be, it's a positive expenditure. Sometimes you get a little bit mixed up when you think, well, it's a minus because it's an expense, but it should be reflected as a positive, and so it messed up our math. So it needs to be put back into a positive. So that moves that budget about $100,000 of more expenses we have to recognize, and so we've tried to make that adjustment there. We've done some adjustments to capital, like we've done with the other funds, to show that capital gets recognized. Now, because this is a enterprise fund, our capital leases and capital expenditures pretty much get placed over on the asset ledger. You don't see them on the expenses other than depreciation and some interest costs. So that actually helped us a little bit in absorbing that big $100,000 shock on depreciation. Any questions on that one? That one's a little more maybe a little more to it than some of the others. All right, moving on, we'll go to our budget for Fund 63. Our tort liability, we have some improvements, or we have some revenues to recognize that we didn't have earlier. And so that's being reflected here, and that's really the only difference. There's a little bit of an increase in expenditures as well. So it just kind of drops a little bit from 11,000 to 4,000 on the net. Our Fund 64, which is our tax stability fund, this fund is a fund that's set up to help us, because there's ebbs and flows in our taxes. The state has a fund set up, kind of a savings account, largely based on interest, and that improved as well. And so we've reflected that change on interest, and that gets eventually transferred over to the general fund as an assistance there. And then finally, we've got our Fund 72, which is our library fund. This budget was largely staff driven. They sat down with me and really kind of went through it with a pretty good fine-tooth comb. So we get that reflected here. Not a lot of changes, just to kind of true things up for the end of the year. So that's really it. Anything else that Mac or Lyman, you want to jump in there and say anything? Okay. All right.
Okay, commissioners.
Thank you.
Those are the
I'll make a
adjustments.
motion that we accept the adjustments as Peter's presented them to us today and incorporate them into our budget year.
Do we need to motion to go into public hearing first?
Yes, yep.
Oh, that's right.
I'll second
We gotta
it.
hear what the public wants to do.
Yep. So I need a motion for public hearing.
I'll make a motion to
Second.
adjourn to a public hearing.
Motion by Commissioner Stubbs to go into public hearing mode, second by Commissioner Adams. Let's go ahead and vote on that. All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's 3 in favor to go into public hearing mode. All right, we're now open to the public for comments.
Okay, there's nobody signed up on the sheet for the public hearing. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to address the commissioners, do so. We have one, okay, go ahead. We've got, looks like we have Rick Meyer, county assessor.
Yeah, coming from the assessor's office and actually as a public elected official, I'd just like to thank my staff, Randy, and the hard work that the assessor's office has done this year to make sure the tax roll is correct, make sure everything's on there that should be on there, and in that vein, it helps the county's budget that we have the money to support the different activities that the county wants to do. So I think the assessor's office has done a pretty good job of helping the county, with its budget, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes too. So thank you, commissioners.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to make a comment on the budget. It looks so clear. It's so nice to be able to. You have done a good job, Peter. It's making it so easy to follow and understand, and we appreciate that.
Okay, anybody else, so the public would like to make a comment? We do have an individual online if you'd like to unmute yourself if you're here to make a public comment. Not seeing you unmute your phone. Commissioners, that is your public hearing for today.
Okay. Do we vote in public
Just
or do
make
we
a motion to
exit?
exit the public hearing or close it.
Okay.
Close the public hearing.
No other comments, commissioners, so can we exit?
Make a motion, we exit the public hearing.
Motion by Commissioner Adams to exit public hearing.
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Stubbs to exit. Let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor to exit public hearing?
Aye.
Aye. That's 3 in favor. No one opposed. Motion carries unanimously. Now we're back to entertaining the resolution.
I'll make a motion, we accept the report and implement it into our budget that Peter has given it to us today.
Can I make just one more kind of clarifying comment on that? And just put in the record too, the 3 lines in red, because those weren't included in the original send out. So those are just changes I'm asking for today. So if we can just make that clear as well on the vote, that way we can get that adopted. Thanks.
It's asking for
Okay,
clarification.
we'll include in the motion, where's the things in red?
Just the changes.
It's in the capital fund and then the landfill. There's just
In the capital fund and landfill, the changes have been made to be included in the budget.
Okay, capital and landfill. Okay, need a second?
I'll second it.
Motion by second by Commissioner Stubbs to approve the resolution and the changes. Okay, any other comments or questions, commissioners? All right, let's go ahead and vote then. All those in favor to approve the resolution and the changes? Aye.
Aye.
It's 3 in favor, no opposed. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, moving on to our Board of Equalization item.
Thank
You
you.
need to make a motion to enter into the Board of Equalization.
Okay. Need a motion to enter into Board of Equalization mode, commissioners.
I'll vote. Do we
Motion
proceed to
by
the-
Commissioner Stubbs to enter into Board of Equalization. Commissioner Adams, seconded by Commissioner Adams. Let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor for Board of Equalization mode? Aye.
Aye.
It's 3 in favor. None opposed. Votes unanimous. We are now in Board of Equalization mode. Okay, what's our item?
This is actually, Commissioners, this is actually getting better. This is the 4th year I've been able to do the Board of Equalization, and I was not to our Board of Equalization this year. I was up to classes at the State Tax Commission. The class was actually how to mass appraise land in the county, so it was quite an interesting class during that time. So my deputy, Assessor Randy Rarick, was there, and we had Judge Kelly, and it was a very nice, successful Board of Equalization. Worked on the last page, we worked on about $6 million worth of adjustments, which totaled out to about $52,000 more dollars to the county in revenue and taxes. Well, we just do the value, but the ultimate would be about $52,000 to the county. So there's a couple of these. So most of these are generated by people calling our office and asking for help on their valuations after the July notices go out. And there was a couple here that I thought were really interesting. Number 59 on the last page at the top, we actually have a lot of people who are very honest. He called us up and said, hey, on my July notice, my house wasn't on my bill. What happened? And so we looked at it and said, wow, your parcel had been deleted from the tax roll. We needed to put that on the correct parcel and then put your home value and so forth on that correct value. So that was a good one. There was some good ones. And then there was, let me pick this next one up. It was Ace Hardware Store in Blanding, is number 43. I thought that was a cool one too. We were always picking up errors, just errors after errors after errors. And this was Ace Hardware, their property in Blanding there on Main Street. Looked at it, and went like, wow, we've got a $70,000 value on no land, on zero, on thin air, which is a big error. So I think they appreciated that we're not overvaluing properties. We're making sure they're correct. So we take that $71,000 off because you have to have something to value, of course. So yeah, we're finding things all the time, which is exciting for the office. And we're getting to the point where these BOEs are smaller and smaller in amounts. And we'll bring another BOE in the future to you because we do have some more work to do on things. So any questions, commissioners?
Well, I appreciate some of those errors. I couldn't understand how a property went from zero value to, it was kind of scary to tell you the
Yes.
truth to watch. And so, because I'm not only a commissioner, I also a taxpayer, especially for property. In our station life, we already bought houses. And so, and we don't see much, including my neighbors, that they would make more. So when I was looking at those numbers, I was just thinking, wow, how can we go from zero to this, or how can we, but now I feel better to see those numbers and realize that that's not only mistakes from both sides kind of things,
Right.
And so, but it's basically it's a correction, and it's, so thank you. Yeah, I thank you for your explanation.
And a little explanation on that first couple of pages. So we do a 5-year reappraisal of the county. And Spanish Valley was our year this year to look at that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we looked at it and go like, wow, that home should have been on that, home should have been on that. They were just homes that never been put on the tax rolls, and they should be there supporting the school districts and supporting the county and supporting, so.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Randy did a great job of everything. So if you have any questions for Randy, I'd just love for you to ask him some
I
questions.
don't anymore because you explained it. I was just, between what the federal government thinking about doing about taxes and and this, I thought, wow, we pretty soon we'll be on down the sidewalk instead of property. But anyway, thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Randy.
Commissioner Adams?
I got a call about a month or so ago from a fellow that had some storage units east of Monticello, and he was selling those storage units, and the tax value on the storage units, if I remember right, were higher than what he was selling it for, and he apparently had some kind of a sales contract or something, and he was disputing the value based on the sales contract he had. And I told him that the only way he could challenge that would be to come to Board of Equalization. I don't know if he ever showed up or.
He withdrew at the very last.
What?
I had been working with him and sent him an application and talked to him on the
Oh,
phone
okay.
and in person. And then the day of, or the Friday before the Monday when we did the BOE hearings, I received a phone call and they withdrew their BOE application and accepted it. And that was the last I've heard of them.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we spent, how much time did we spend with him? An hour and a half, 2 hours? Talking over his valuations and with him in person.
Thank
He
you.
actually came to our office, so. That's the mini storage units out east of here. Okay, well, that's how many total of 50? 63.
63.
Yeah.
And you guys go travel out and actually do the physical. There's a lot of driving in between.
And I believe in trusting people. People come to us and they give us their explanation. They show us proof. And we put these before the judge and he approved these, most of them. So I feel pretty good about what we've accomplished this year. So, yeah.
Wow.
Thank you.
Very
Do
good.
you have any update on the Goulding's property from the Navajo Nation or anything?
Oh. We know the sale went through. It's finished. I'm going to say Waylon's wife came and talked to me. I can't think of her name offhand. Waylon, Monica. She came and talked to me in person about it. And I've been in contact with their lawyers during the sale. And since it's been finalized and everything's been done, I have had no correspondence with anybody. So I don't know where we're at with that going forward. We'll have to see how the state and everybody else decides what they're going to do.
So is that a decision that virtually belongs to the state tax commission or the county?
Both. It's going to be both. How we go forward, and so there'll be two things we need to look at. So their personal property, which would be all the equipment, everything in the kitchens, everything in the motels, everything would be under one classification. And then the real property, the buildings and the land will be on another classification. Now, how the sale went through, I don't know how everything's been finalized on those two classifications. And we'll have to see.
So the property is county property,
No.
It's private
private
property.
But it's inside the county. I mean,
It is, yes.
And so,
640 acres.
my concern is that it may say a precedent. If it said we don't collect taxes, then just about anybody can come within the county and buy anything and declare it being no longer part of the county. And so I'm not complaining, I just try to understand how they would.
Right.
So I know that in the Arizona part, in Arizona, there are parts where the tribe has business. And for what I understood, those are considered not part of the reservation. There are business owned by the tribe, but the property, and so I don't know how.
Well,
It's something, I people keep asking about that, and so,
Right.
and I think for me, it was a concern that if we don't, are not able to collect taxes, it's not setting up a precedent, and we are still, as a county, we are responsible for tourists and people that come to the area so we still going to be using funds to take care of the area with all the tourists coming
right.
and I have seen more and more tourists as I travel back and forth in that area than before. I mean, for some reason, maybe it's a time where lots of foreigners decide to come this area, but there's a lot more and more traffic, a lot more visitors, and so that is kind of my concern, that we still offer service as a county with rescues and whatever.
Right. So they paid their personal property taxes this year, and I'm sure in November they should be paying their real property taxes now. Starting next year, we'll see. But Westwater Properties, which is owned by the tribe, so to speak, is we still receive money from Westwater Properties for the land and also the homes. on that one. Now the the women's Iron Hawk shelter there in Blanding, I believe we've got that exempt, and the tribe owns that one. So we'll have to wait and see how it shakes out.
Thank you.
How the lawyers, what the lawyers are going to tell us, and then we'll have to decide what we want to do as a county. That'll be the commissioners. We'll have to come before you and ask for some direction.
Thank
I
you.
know the property that was sold, there was a figure in the paper of somewhere around $59 million for the Goulding's property, and
Right.
I'm assuming that included all different classifications of property, but in years past, it seems to me like the values that they had brought to us and kind of protested from time to time were considerably less than that. 59 million cost more around $1 or $2 or $3 million. So I'm just wondering if we felt like that we had undervalued those properties in years past, or just had taken what they gave us. And
In
I don't know.
2022, we had Gordon Lowe appraise all that property, everything down there.
And what was the appraisal?
And it seems like we had them up to about 15 million.
15?
Yeah, 15 or 20 million. And they sold it for 58 plus, like you're saying, Commissioner. So how much of that is you buy a business, you buy the name, you buy the reputation, you spend money for clientele, on and on. But we felt that Gordon Lowe did a great job in 2022. But of course, values have gone up, so they have a $58 million plus price. We'll have to see. Their lawyers are pretty good. They were kind of fun to talk to, their law firms, but anyway.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioners. Yeah.
Okay.
Do we need a motion on that one, or do we?
We would need a motion to.
Or do we? Are we in a? We're not in a public hearing on this, are we? So we need to approve the recommendations of the Board of Equalization. Is that right?
Right, Randy, Nick?
Yes,
That's correct.
we need approval.
So, do you make a motion? I
will if you don't want to.
Well, you can.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the Board of Equalization hearing officer recommendations.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Adams and second by Commissioner Stubbs. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Let's go
Thank you
ahead
so
and-
much.
Go ahead and vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it's 3 in favor, unanimous approval. And now we just exit, right? Do we need a motion?
to accept?
Need a motion to exit out of Board of Equalization.
Okay, motion to exit out of Board of Equalization.
I'll second.
Commissioner Adams motions to exit, second by Commissioner Stubbs. Let's vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3 in favor, none opposed, unanimously exited out of Board of Equalization mode. Now
Thank you.
we are on to commission reports, commissioners. Anyone wanna do their reports first?
I will remember to take. Guess I can go first.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner Stubbs.
This is one of those months where I got to be involved in every region of my district. A couple Sunday ago, I got a chance to attend the Westwater community meeting, and they still kind of trying to requesting for signs for the road. We have a problem because that's the beginning of one of the famous trail riding. People like to ride that trail, and they come really fast through that community. And so they still trying to get a sign. So we'll keep working on that to help them
Which
with
trail
that.
is it?
Westwater,
Oh, Westwater.
yeah. Anyway, so I went to Olchedo. We are working as a member of the NRF board. I've been working with Olchedo chapter senior center, and we went there and had the opportunity to see what they have been closed since for a year. A year this in August is when they start closing the center. They have had a fire in the kitchen, and then now the kitchen is all redone and brand new. They have some other things that need to be fixed, and so we went there just to see. I went with Navajo Trust Fund, and there were other people involved in the meeting, just basically just to see what the situation was. And while we were there, because there were cars parked outside the center, the people in the community thought it was open, so they started coming. And it was so sad to see the disappointing face where we tell them it was not open. They came ready for lunch and all the things that they do there. So we are, the next step is to meet with Olchedo chapter. I was ready to go to a meeting on Friday, had all the watermelon cut and all ready, and I thought I'd check my email one more time, and there was a message that the meeting was canceled and moved to a later date. I also been working with the NRF, with the Navajo Mountain Center. People have contacted me about we're gonna have a meeting, and then in the process of setting up that meeting, and then just today I got to go to the bear dance and White Mesa, and that was nice because I get to see lots of friends and lots of people we had known through the years there, and I still continue to work on the splash pad and getting ready to send a proposal again. And I had the opportunity to go, and my husband went with me, and we went with Gary Guyman. He has lots of property, and he has lots of interest in building some, connecting to trails that they already exist in that area. I try to think what they call it. Bulldog, I think, is the area there. Anyway, so, and he has private property, and I think it would be nice to have a kind of meeting to see what he would be willing to clarify if he's thinking about donating property so we can go through the trail. So we're in the process of just kind of keep working on that, and when the time comes, we'll bring him to talk to the rest of us, I guess. Anyway, so that's all I have. Anyway, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Stubbs. Commissioner Adams?
Well, let's see, last month I had a USIP board meeting. We went over rates, and I think they should have sent those rates out to the MAC. Also went with the Colorado River Advisory Committee and floated down the Green River from the base of the dam at Flaming Gorge. One day, had a lot of state people and 5 different rafts. That was, had some good conversation about the progress being made in a new agreement between the lower basin states and the upper basin states. And I think we're making progress there. I was able to attend Inez's retirement party last Friday. Thought that was a nice
That was nice.
gesture for her to be able to retire. This week, tomorrow, I'm going to Salt Lake for a CIB meeting first thing Thursday morning. We have quite a few projects coming up, and of course, everybody applies for grant money. We don't have much grant money. It's mostly money to be loaned, so we'll just have to see what the board decides to do there. But then next Tuesday, we go to our UAC conference in Provo, and I think everybody's got the information on that. Lori, did you get reservations for that?
She should have. And then we got her agenda.
Yeah, and then, I won't be staying at the motel. One of my kids just lives right
Okay. Yep. Anyway, that's kind of my report.
Very good. For my report, Commissioner Stubbs and we actually got to sit down and talk to Congressman Curtis. This was on August the 22nd, and he came out and visited with Commissioner Stubbs in person. I linked in by video. It's just very nice to get to chat with him. Of course, you know, he's running for the Senate now, and so he just came in and checked in with us as commissioners. One thing we talked to him about was just keeping an eye on the Title 4B, which is the Social Security reauthorization for Title 4 is the children funds, child abuse funds. There's a particular section for tribes, tribes being able to receive more funding to coordinate data. It's called AFGARS, and the states kind of keep track of Native Americans and also ethnic folks within the system. And there's push to have more funding available to have better data for Native Americans that are in the foster care system and that are placed in families within the states. And so we asked Commissioner or Congressman Curtis to support that bill when it's there. I think just giving our appreciation for his work and getting the funds for the uranium screening and then for the cancer screening. And Commissioner Stubbs actually asked that he continue to support the county getting it extended. And so that was a nice meet and greet. He had to leave right after to go to his public meeting. I think he had.
I also brought up the possibility about a post office in Spanish Valley. It was interesting because I couldn't figure out about the meeting, and nobody heard about. He was just coming to visit with the two of us, kind of thing. So it was kind of nice. And in a way, I just sit down there and try. Maybe I talk too much because anyway, but it was a nice visit, and he brought Kennedy, an assistant. I don't know the first name, but Kennedy is running for his current position. So he's running to be the new congressman from Utah. Anyway, so that was nice of him to come in.
Right. And another announcement is we do have a San Juan Council of Governments. Christine, or Representative Watkins, usually sits down with our county and Monticello mayor, Blanding mayor. The proposed meeting date that's being thrown is September the 13th in Blanding at the government building. That may change. The normal meeting dates are on Friday, and usually we have them at 1 p.m. So if it's not the 13th, it'll either be the following Friday or
Yeah, the 13th during UAC.
is it during UX? So I think we're talking about rescheduling, but that is coming. It's time to meet with Representative Watkins. She's doing it under the Southeastern Utah Association of Local Governments. She usually sits down with all of the county elected officials to talk about their needs and some of their issues and concerns. So try to keep you informed, Lori, of that date, because I think that's important. So maybe if it's not the 13th, it'll be the following Friday. As far as the chapters and their meetings, they are scheduled out beginning this Sunday. Mexican Water chapter has their chapter meeting this coming Sunday that I'll be going out to, and then the following Monday, the week after we come back from UAC, Red Mesa chapter will have their meeting that same week. I think Anna chapter is having their meeting. We're still trying to put revitalization funds meeting date down, and I think they're looking at October because September is kind of pretty busy. I think that's the only, or other than UAC that we're going to next week, I think that's the other meeting announcement we have. As far as the Community Justice Coordinating Council for our county, we're looking at a Friday, possibly in Shiprock PD, depending on whether we have a room or not. But that's usually on the third Friday of every month. So that's all I have, commissioners. Other than be safe out there. If you haven't had your pumpkin spice latte, I recommend it. Actually, the apple crisp one is pretty good. So, but appreciate our administrator and the staff for keeping things going and together. So that's all I have, commissioners. Other than, I think our next item is to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Adams to adjourn.
I'll second.
Saying it by Commissioner Stubbs. All those in favor to adjourn our
Aye.
commission meeting?
Aye.
That's 3 in favor. We are adjourned as of 12:26 p.m.